Hello, hello, and welcome back to Reignite Your Soul podcast. My name is Laura Plahuta, and I am your host, and I am super excited to be back here with you. It's just me today, and I don't mean just as if it's a bad thing, but it is kind of an exciting thing because you may have noticed I haven't been doing many podcasts where it's just me. And you may also hear my feet walking in this episode. I am just out in BC right now, out on this beautiful, amazing trail just south of Nanaimo, out on Vancouver Island. So you will likely hear that, which I feel may be meditative for you. Setting the intention, because if you're anything like me, you love being outside and out in nature. So you may hear these birds and stuff as well. But just to give you a little heads up. But I haven't been doing many podcast episodes alone. In the last couple of years, there's been lots of stuff moving in my life, and it's honestly brought up a lot of insecurities and a lot of things for me to be able to dive deeper into. And it's funny because when people look at me, they're always like, Laura, you've always been confident. But there are so many deeper levels to explore. Like, I'm telling you, oh my gosh, sometimes I find these little pockets in myself that have these little insecurities. And it's interesting when you can allow yourself to express from those places without shame, like how it actually sounds probably to some people and like what it sounds like to the world. But it's been really cool for me being able to just fully own that and express that. So anyways, long story short, I am back, and I just wanted to come on here today and share a few stories with you. I was along my walk here this morning, and it's been a super amazing road trip. We've been going from Ottawa all the way to Vancouver Island now, and we've been on the road for just over a month now, and it's me and a beautiful woman, Vimochini, who I met. We actually just had our little 3-month anniversary where we've known each other. We met at a drumming circle up in Wakefield. And it's been a very incredible trip. However, there has been many challenges. For me, it's really been very great for me to be able to honor my own truth. Because I do find that in the past, when other people would come into my life, I would just be a yes woman. I would just be like, yeah, sure, that's fine, let's do that. But what did that do? It left me with so many resentments. Oh my goodness. Resentments kill relationships. I will tell you that much. And so it's been great for me to be able to start practicing speaking up for myself and sharing what I want to do, and still maintaining the things that I enjoy while also maintaining a relationship. And it's been really cool because I was in a 6-year relationship throughout most of my 20s. So I'm very good at being in a relationship. The biggest thing that I kind of lost, I feel, in that relationship was a lot of my own authenticity and what I actually wanted. At that point in my life, I was working as a paramedic, and I feel like I was just in this unconscious pattern of this timeline of like graduating college and then getting into the workplace, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to do well. And being a paramedic too, like, it was an awesome friggin' job, and I loved it, and I wanted to do my best. Like, you have literally people's lives in your hands sometimes, right? And it was just something that I was very passionate about, but it kind of took over my life. It took over my life, and I forgot about a lot of my other passions and a lot of my other hobbies that I enjoyed. And I would just allow my mind to be like, make up these silly stories like, oh, don't go traveling, you need to save money for this, or like, you need to save. And that was just all conditioning from my family. So within that relationship, I feel like I kind of lost myself a little bit. And so after coming out of that relationship, when it ended, when me and my partner went our separate ways, and I'm so very grateful for him even to this day, it was not easy being able to like go out on my own again and do stuff. I'm an Aries, so I'm very good at making decisions and doing things, but the challenges along the way and all the lessons that I've learned have not been easy peasy. They have not been easy peasy. They've brought up a lot of emotional turmoil within myself, but it really has truly allowed me to grow and learn and just evolve into a woman that I never ever thought I could possibly be. Which it's just like when you can really see life's lessons and all these challenges that we go through, they are so tough in the moment, you know? It's like a frog being boiled in a pot really slowly. I know this is a horrible example, but it's an example. Because I really love animals and I don't like this. This is an example, but I'm going to share it anyway because I don't really have another analogy. When you have a frog in a pot of water and you slowly start turning up the temperature, the frog does not recognize that the temperature is going up because it just slowly adjusts. And the next thing you know, the water is boiling and the frog is cooked. Like, how horrible is that? But that's basically like what it was. So as I came out of that relationship, I ended up, after not too long, I was working 2 jobs. I was working as a paramedic up in Haliburton County, and then I was working as a paramedic down in Durham Region. And so I had decided that we were going to split the dogs up. He was going to take one of them. I was going to take the other one. And then I was going to move to Toronto because I was like, oh my gosh, I never ever thought I would have the opportunity to live in Toronto. There's so much stuff going on. There's lots of stuff to do. It'll be great. And at that point, I did love partying and I loved going out to the bars and dancing. And I wouldn't quite say partying, but I loved to have a good time and I loved drinking. So I would go out and dance and have a great time. And there were sporting events and so many amazing things. So I was like, I am moving to Toronto. So I ended up moving back into my parents' place for a month. I had my 1 dog with me. And then I ended up finding a condo in Toronto with this beautiful view over top of the harbor, over the water, looking at the CN Tower, 27th floor. It was just like magical. And you got to wake up every single morning with that view, the sunrise coming up, and it was just like next level. And so that was a huge dream of mine. But when I got into that, it was not easy. I felt like I was a single mom. Like, honestly, kudos to all of the single parents out there. Not just single, like moms that are raising their children alone, but also dads. Because, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. But, you know, we just keep on keeping on and we do what we have to do. So kudos to all of you if you are single parents. Well, kudos to all of you. You're all fucking epic. But, yeah, I felt like a single parent. And I was working, at that point, I was still working 2 paramedic jobs, which are 12-hour shifts. So my dog had to stay home for a long time. I did have some friends that would come and let him out and stuff and take him for a walk, but a long time for a dog to be home. And so I did that for a year. And then I actually had an amazing friend of mine move in with me because she was a flight attendant. And we just had the best time together. We were both in network marketing and doing our sales with Isagenix, a health and wellness company. And it was just such a blast. So she was never home at her place because she was always at my place. So I'm like, well, why don't you just move in with me? We can just share a bed and you can get rid of your place and you can just pay me your rent. That sounds great. So at that point I was still paying my mortgage of my place in Cobourg as we waited for it to sell, plus my my rent in Toronto. So it was a pretty wild time, but incredible. And at that point, that was like when I had my first coach. So I hired a coach where I invested, I think it was like $12,000 into having this coach for quite a long time, where it was all just mindset development and all of this amazing, amazing stuff. I learned so much about myself. And I remember sitting on the on the balcony, looking over the water on a phone with my coach that one day, and I was like, I think I'm gonna quit my job. I think I'm gonna quit everything and I'm gonna go travel. And she was like, okay, well, like that's totally awesome. Like, have you broken down the numbers? Like, do you know how long you could live off of the money you have? And I was just like, Okay, so we'll do it. So I did it, and I was like, okay, we're doing it. I honestly like had already decided. When I decide something, I don't even really think about it. I just trust myself and I go and figure shit out as I go. So I ended up kind of having that like seed planted in my mind, and I broke my wrist playing soccer on the beach, and I was like, fuck. So I had to be off work. And at that point, work was just pissing me off with all the politics and stuff. And they weren't gonna, I was bitter because they weren't gonna pay me my full wage when I was off. And they were only gonna give me a couple shifts a week and all of this stuff because I had broke my wrist. And I ended up just saying, fuck this. I'm just gonna stay at home. I'll work on my online business and whatever. So I was off work for 4 months. And by the end of that 4 months, I was having so much anxiety about going back. I really didn't want to go back. And so it came to the point where my physiotherapist, Rose, what a sweetheart, she was like, Laura, I don't think I can keep postponing this. Like your wrist is fully healed now. And so I was just like, no, you know what? It's fine. I've decided I'm going to quit my job. And side note, looking back, I almost wish that I just took a leave off work. So not always advised, like really tune in if you do want to just fully up and quit your job, because I know that is a very, very big deal. But I don't regret it one bit. But just a little side note for that. I do wish that I did take a leave and then I had the opportunity to go back, and maybe I would have, maybe I wouldn't have, but at least then it was still there. I actually have a client that's doing that right now. She's taking a year leave off of her work and she's going traveling. And I am so freaking excited for her because she, during our second session, she had mentioned that she would love to do that. But she had never believed at that point even that was possible. And that was just the beginning of this year. So it's insane what can happen when you start working on yourself and you invest into yourself, what can unfold. But I decided I was going to quit my job. So I ended up quitting. And I went to New Zealand. I had a guy that I met, Guillaume, who is just amazing. And we met at a rugby sevens tournament in New York. I think that must have been like back in 2019, I think. And we had kind of like reconnected after not chatting for a while, and he was living over in New Zealand, and he's like, why don't you come to New Zealand? Come visit. And I'm like, okay, let's fucking do it. This was like from 1 week to the next. I had booked my flight, and I was on a plane to New Zealand. And I went over there, and I'd reached out to Gabby, who is an amazing friend of mine as well, who I actually didn't know very well at that point. I had just met her once at a business event, and I'd reached out to her, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be coming to New Zealand. There's an Isogenics event. Are you cool if I come stay with you? And she was like, yeah, no problem. Like, come over. Like, you can stay with me for a little bit and come to the event. It'll be great. And so I went over there. I ended up staying with her for 3 weeks and then having incredible adventures on South Island with Guillaume, which were just amazing. Being able to he's such a like adventurer and off the beaten path guy. Oh my gosh. I remember going down this crazy hill. It was actually switchbacks going down the hill down to this like private beach, and naturally the two of us like getting into no good. We decided to like not do the switchbacks because it takes too long. We decided to just go down, straight down, like just hanging onto trees and stuff like that. And I ended up slipping and like totally like wiped out and like scratched my whole ass and slid down this side of this mountain a little bit. And then got down to this private beach. And it was just like next level. That whole trip was next level. And then so Gabby, she's very, very successful in network marketing, and she has a global team around the world, and she was going to be doing a Start tour. So Start Your Life is age, I think it's 16 or 18. Sorry, I'm not very up to date with this. I think it's 18 to 35. And when you're in that age range, they call it Start Your Life, and it's all about like bringing in young people into entrepreneurism and being able to create an impact and start a business online and have freedom to travel and freedom to just be yourself authentically and contribute to the world in an amazing, positive way. And so she was doing a tour with that, and I was with this company as well, and I still am because I love them so much. But we decided, she had decided that she was going to go across Canada, and I was like, oh my gosh, let's do this. So I met the most incredible people going across Canada in this really cool camper. If you scroll back on my Instagram, you'll be able to basically follow this whole entire adventure. It was like quite an adventure. Oh my goodness, I tell you. So we went all the way across Canada. That was when my niece Maya was born, so I got to go home and see my niece and hold my niece for the very first time. And she is 3 now, and she is just like amazing. She is the smartest, most bright little girl ever, and she's so creative. Like, I swear she's going to be like an incredible artist of some sort. She loves painting right now, and she actually sold her first couple paintings. They had like little mini makers, like like children's entrepreneur kind of like little show type thingy where they had all the kids bring their stuff, and the kids would have money and they would go buy from each other and get to buy their stuff. So she sold some of her paintings, and it was just like incredible. But that was when my niece Maya was born. And then from there, after I came home from there, I was like, okay, selling my apartment. Like I'm not having a home anymore. Not doing it, not for me. And so I actually ended up going to Europe at that point, and bless my mom's soul, she actually packed up my whole entire apartment for me. She is literally an angel. Packed up my whole entire apartment. And at that point, like, I've learned from this somewhat, but I was just like, just get rid of all of it. I don't care. Just get rid of it. I don't need any of it anymore. She didn't get rid of all of it, luckily. But she did get rid of some key items that I was like, why would you get rid of that? She's like, you told me to get rid of everything. I'm like, yeah, but not that, obviously. As if she would know. Yeah, so then I just hopped on a plane and went to England, went to Wales, visited my friends there, Sean and Stefan. They were just like amazing. I met them playing rugby back in high school. The Welsh rugby teams would always come over to our rugby club in Lindsay, and they would bill it with us, and they would stay with us, and just like such incredible times with them. So much fun. So I went and stayed with them for a little bit, and then I went to Majorca. So I flew over to Majorca and got to stay there with another friend of mine who I met through Isogenics, Cherie. We had such a great time. I was there with her for about 3 weeks as well. And just going to little coffee shops and working and hanging out and doing cool things. And then we flew over to Ibiza and spent some time in Ibiza, I think like 3-4 days in Ibiza, with her and a couple girlfriends. And just like the most incredible sunsets on the boats and dinners with amazing sunsets. It was just like incredible experience. And went over to Barcelona and got to see the Sagrada de Familia, which is just like an incredible cathedral that is, I think it took like over 100 years from the build. Google it if you haven't seen it before. It's intense. And they're still doing reconstruction stuff on it now. Well, they were when I was there anyway. But just like a massive art piece that is just continually being worked on. It's just like so magical seeing all the creators and stuff in the world just bringing all this magical stuff to the world. And there's so much intention with everything inside that building and outside of that building. Like nothing on it is unintentional. There's meaning and significance and intention behind everything that's on there. The colors, the paintings, the stories that go with it. It was really cool experience. So if you ever have a chance to go there, I would highly suggest it. It's funny because I've always wanted to do a travel blog or a vlog, so maybe I'll start that someday. And then from there I actually flew to Croatia to visit my friend Hillary. She was over in Denmark visiting her sister, and we were like, where can we go? We were like, let's go to Croatia. So I went to Croatia, flew into Dubrovnik and got out. And I don't know if you are a Game of Thrones fan. If not, on DP, watch Game of Thrones. I think I might be a bit too sensitive now to watch it. But I still love it when I did watch it. Still a little bit desensitized at that point when I watched it, but really, really great show. And walked out, looked over to Dubrovnik, and I was like, holy shit. I'm standing in King's Landing. Like I was legit standing in King's Landing. I feel like this is my life. I just show up places and just like figure things out as I go, and it's just amazing. Makes for really great adventures. So then I ended up, my friend Hillary was there for just over a week, and I ended up staying there for 3 weeks. So I had took a ferry to Hvar, which is, they've got like a whole bunch of Croatian islands, and they're just so beautiful. And so I went and stayed on one of the islands. I can't recall which island it was that I stayed on right now, but it was one of the smaller islands that was just like very like chill and calm. And I ended up just grabbing a hotel there for a couple weeks, and it was right on the water, so I just swam and like mastermind ideas for my business and a whole bunch of stuff, and it was just amazing. I'm gonna put all of these little bubbles back on my Instagram because they were so fun. Oh my gosh. I remember pulling my suitcase around and just creating a whole storyline around my suitcase. So funny. I literally, like, I have the best time being by myself, but then also being with other people. It's just so awesome how much fun I can have by myself. It becomes a problem sometimes because sometimes in relationships I'm like too independent, and it it can become a problem sometimes for some people. I definitely need to find a partner that is okay with me having my my independence. And then from there, I ended up going to Nashville, which seems super random. This whole trip sounds probably so random, and it was. I went to a business event in Nashville and then flew there, and then, oh my gosh, I had the craziest layovers and flight cancellations. It was wild. I slept in the New York airport for 2 days on the floor. The second night, I ended up going to them and I was like, dude, you have to get me a hotel. And so they ended up paying for my hotel. But it was like wild. So I ended up getting to Nashville, going to the event, came back home. And then I went and stayed with my incredible friend Mo, who lived in Toronto at the time. He's now living in Dubai. Just like soul brother of mine. Oh my gosh, I love him to death. Went and stayed with him for a little bit, and it was just like, he's an engineer, so he works a lot, and I was like, I'll just come and hang out with you, and I'll make you dinner. Just be a nice little housewife, temporary housewife. And then my friend Alex, while I was doing all that other traveling, she had been in Colombia for a little bit, and she had done ayahuasca. And she told me about her experience, about like reliving her birth and a whole bunch of other stuff, and how crazy it was, and how much trauma she worked through, and how much like more herself she felt afterwards. And I was like, I need to do this. I didn't even really know what it was, and she told me it was the hardest thing she'd ever done. And you know when like somebody tells you that, it's like you don't really realize it until you're going through it. Yeah. So I was like, there happened to be a week later, I think 3 weeks later, there was a retreat in Colombia, a 5-day 4 ceremony ayahuasca retreat. And I was like, I'm going to go to do ayahuasca. I'm going to break through my limiting beliefs. I'm going to just start doing all the things that I want to do in life. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. And so I booked a 3-week trip. I was like, left some of my stuff at my friend Mo's. I'm like, I'll be back in 3 weeks. I actually never ended up going back to his place for a whole entire year. Insane how my life just unfolds, but it's been incredible. I'm so blessed for my friends. So I went to Colombia and I feel like this could be a whole nother podcast episode. I think I'm going to leave it for another podcast episode. You'll have to wait till next week to hear this one about Colombia, because it was next level. With all of the amazing plant medicines that I got to experience, the sweat lodges, like the breath work, the Wim Hof in the rivers with the ice baths, like, oh my gosh, I went and saw my first energy healer. That was very transformational for me, and a lot of what I experienced in Colombia is actually why I do what I do now with my business. So I will share that story on the next episode. But I just felt called to share a little bit more about me. There's probably a lot of you that maybe didn't know that story about me. But I actually started this podcast when I was living in Colombia. After my ayahuasca ceremony, it came through that I was to start a podcast, and I had no clue how to start a podcast. So I was like Googling it, and like it's like, oh my God, there's so many fucking apps to use. Like, how the hell do I do this? And then I happened to go to a breathwork retreat, or a breathwork day retreat with Joseph, who's a good friend of mine now. And he had that amazing breathwork retreat, which I will tell you about in the next episode. And he's actually been on the podcast a couple times. You can look up him with just search breathwork, and it'll come up with Joseph Oliver. And I did that, and there happened to be a woman there who actually runs podcasts. I was like, weird, put it out there and you shall receive, right? So she had told me about Anchor, and that's what I currently do it on now, because it's an incredible app for podcasts. You literally just upload your stuff onto it, and then it just distributes it onto all of the major platforms, which is incredible. So yeah, that was when I started my podcast. You can actually go back and listen to my first 10-day self-love challenge. It's so funny to just like skip through them, and how much I've changed over the years. Maybe you guys won't even notice it, but for me, it's been really awesome just kind of going back and re-listening to some of them and be like, wow, you've came so far, look at you go. But I just felt called to share, open up with you all a little bit more about myself, my journey, and why I'm so passionate about exiting the frickin' rat race. Exiting the rat race of life and actually living and loving every aspect of life. Because we don't have to live like they did in the past, where we have to self-sacrifice in order for us to, like, for a family or for all of these things, you know, like, we can have it all. We can live a life that's absolutely incredible, that we love, that's very freedom-oriented, very community-oriented, with amazing high-vibe, epic adventurers that you just live life with and that you love, and that you can start a family, and, you know, kids don't even have to go to the normal traditional educational system. I have opinions on the education system, and they're not good ones. So there's so many different ways to raise kids and everything now. So we truly don't have to live any specific way, and we can choose however we want to live. So I wanted to share that with you, because my life has drastically changed since my days of working corporate. And I have never felt better. So I love you guys so much. Whatever you're going through right now, know that you are so capable of getting through it. You can change your life in unimaginable ways when you choose to dive in and uncover what's blocking you from being able to take those next steps you're wanting to take. But I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being on here and listening. I am so grateful for you. If you do have any friends or anybody that you feel would resonate with this podcast, please share it out to them. Be mega appreciated. Very excited to get all the good vibes out to the world and just share a new way of being. But love you long time. Have the most incredible day, and catch you next week with my Colombian adventures.